Hi, it's Mike here from Better Happy. What we're going to talk about today is how we can promote good mental health in work and reap the rewards of that using something called ACT, Acceptance Commitment Therapy, as opposed to just waiting for and dealing with the negative impacts of poor mental health. Now, most of us will buy into and understand the fact that prevention is better than cure, and this is something that's pretty much universally true. But this is especially prevalent when we start thinking about people and businesses. And again, it's especially prevalent when we start thinking about mental health. The financial and emotional costs attached to letting mental health become an illness are huge. Huge for the individual, huge for the family associated to the individual, huge for the business. It's normally going to end up being long-term sick and losing that member of staff. And then huge for our economy as well, the evidence of which is all around us in society at the moment. Now, I'm not suggesting that all mental health is preventable and that we're just not doing a good enough job. Of course it's not. There's many factors that go into it. But what I am suggesting is that there's a lot more we can do to promote good mental health, and a lot of the poor mental health we experience could be prevented with some simple interventions. The cost of promoting good mental health is significantly less than dealing with poor mental health, and the benefits that accompany it are huge. These benefits range from higher levels of productivity, holding on to our staff for longer, attracting better talent because we've created a workplace and environment that actually promotes good mental health, which is a really unique and standout thing in today's modern society. But the question is, how do we do it? Poor mental health is obviously an environmental problem within the UK. It's not just that we've all decided that we're miserable and stressed. The whole of our society struggles with it. It's prevalent across our kids, our schools, our businesses and society. So it's obviously something that's created by the environment. This is something that I've got quite a good insight into because of my own personal experiences. So in my mid-20s, I was 5 years into a professional career in the British military. I've done a couple of tours of Afghanistan. I was well paid, I was independent, I had a good relationship, I had a nice car, I was financially secure, and I was respected by society for having the job that I had. Now, these are all the things that society taught me would make me happy, but at 25 I actually left that career because I felt unhappy, and I was still battling with a lot of negative emotions and lots of things in my life that I just struggled with. And so my response to that was, I don't really know how to be happy. Society's not taught me very well, so I'm going to put on a backpack and go traveling. So I've got a one-way ticket to Southeast Asia and went traveling for 3 years. Throughout that time I started to study spirituality, different philosophers. I studied the Dalai Lama, I studied Buddhism, I lived on monasteries, I learned to meditate, and I started to see life in a different way and see the mind in a different way and understand how we kind of work. But what I really started to understand was that in the UK, we've kind of got it all wrong. We really don't focus on promoting health and happiness, and we really don't teach people a good kind of system and thought process of how to be healthy and happy. In fact, what we teach people is that achievement and success and getting stuff is the key to happiness, and that once we get all that stuff, we'll be happy, and that anything else that gets in the way is a negative, and that any negative emotions we might have are bad. And this is really bad. This is a really bad way to approach life, and I think this is why we have such wide problems with mental health, because we're just not taught how to live our lives happy, productive and effectively. Okay, this is all great, but how can this actually help us in the workplace? We're not going to send all of our staff to a monastery and get them to read Dalai Lama books and sit on monasteries and learn to meditate. However, I would recommend that if you've got the time and resources to do it, it's going to be immensely beneficial. But for most of us, completely unrealistic. So there's something that has been proven to work very well in businesses that is hyper aligned to everything that I've just talked about. It takes into account all these things that I learned. It takes into account human psychology, and it helps people live a more meaningful, healthy, happy life and deal with the negatives of life. So it really helps us promote good mental health. And this is called Acceptance Commitment Therapy. It's very popularized by a book called The Happiness Trap, authored by psychologist Russ Harris. Now, what's super interesting about ACT is not that it's just aligned to everything I've just said, but it's also been proven to work in the workplace. There's lots of research on this, and there's a book and a website called themindfulemployee.com, which you can go and check out now. But these guys, these professional psychologists and researchers, have been implementing this into workplaces of different shapes and sizes for many years, proving its validity. Now, you might be the owner of a small business, a large business, and think, this is going to cost thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds to implement into my workplace. It can do, but it doesn't have to. There's lots of different options, but you can also start to implement it for free just by understanding the process a little bit. So I'm going to explain to you a little bit about ACT now without making it too complicated. So on the screen now, you'll see the ACT hexagon. And essentially, just to simplify this to you, the whole point in this process is to help somebody, number one, be able to better understand and cope with the inevitable negative challenges and feelings and thoughts and emotions that come into life. And then number two, be able to connect with their personal values and live their life in a more direct and action-driven format. So over on the left here, we've got these 4 different components, but as I've already mentioned, this is all about helping people understand that negative emotions are a part of life and that we need to not battle them, we need to accept them. This is widely known as mindfulness training, which most of us would have heard of. But what we don't want to do is just give our staff some mindfulness training, but then not put that into the context of living a values-based life, this stuff over here on the right. This can be done in your workplace. In one session, we can introduce people to the basics of this. So this is where mindfulness is really powerful because it helps people get to a place where they can be more accepting of their thoughts, feelings, and emotions and less battling with them. When we try and battle thoughts, feelings, and emotions, negative ones, we actually double the impact of them, because we're already experienced the negatives of them, then we try and fight them, then we feel bad about the fact that we've got them. So this is a lose-lose. Now, if you think about in the business context and in the business setting, it is inevitable that we're going to have lots of challenges, lots of negatives, lots of criticism, and just a never-ending list of things to deal with. So if we're not mentally prepared to understand, recognize, and deal with those challenges, and we're in a position where we feel that they're all bad and that it's bad every time they arise, it's almost guaranteed that poor mental health is going to pop up in the workplace. And this is what we're seeing wider and wider and wider. So for me, it's really important that in the workplace, we put in this basic training around mindfulness and how to be more accepting and almost positive with our negative thoughts, feelings, and emotions. So that's the left side of it. And then over here on the right side, this is where ACT stands out. Instead of just focusing on mindfulness and being more peaceful, it then also helps us focus on, well, what are our values as individuals? And then how can we create actions and goals around those values? How can we be more action-based towards our values? This is extremely important and extremely powerful. And this is essentially, in business talk, creating a growth mindset culture. Now, what's interesting is how for a business to be successful, it needs to have clearly defined core values, and then it needs to use those values to move towards its goals. We're essentially just teaching that same process to our staff. We want our staff to be able to connect to their values and then be able to take actions each week to move towards being in line with those values. What this will create in the individual, when you give them the basics of this training, is somebody that's better able to handle their negative emotions with this stuff over here on the left, and somebody that's more confident to move towards who they want to be in life, so they're more productive, they feel more fulfilled, they're better at work, they're better at home, and they've just got more energy, what we'd call an engaged employee. So the combination of these two things is really powerful for helping promote positive mental health. And a lot of the negative mental health issues that we face would actually be prevented just by having the basics of this training provided to employees. Okay, so we've understood a little bit of the theory around that, but how on earth do we actually fit that into the workplace? Well, the mindfulness piece is quite difficult, obviously, to teach if you haven't done it before, you haven't got any experience with it. So just doing it on yourself can be quite challenging. However, that said, there are tons of resources and apps and videos on YouTube that can help people with mindfulness straight away. So let's say that you're a very small business, very low budget, you've got no money to spend. You can simply talk to your staff, get your staff together, have a talk about the importance of mindfulness and how it can help us be aware of our thoughts and feelings and emotions, and then provide them with access to these resources. So there's great apps such as Headspace, Calm, the Feeling Good app, and then lots of free videos on YouTube. Just stick in 10-minute mindfulness meditation. And you can even watch ACT meditations as well. So loads of free resources, or you can bring in an external provider to do some workshops for your staff. For the mindful employee, have tested and proven a 3-workshop methodology that really helps staff get to the basics of learning how to be mindful and implement these components of this system. Now, the second part of this is values-based living. Now, it's widely accepted that businesses need to shift from the old management culture, which is here's your job, here's the list of stuff you need to do, get on with it, and I'll step in to make sure that you're doing enough work. That's really the old way that doesn't really work, and we need to move towards a coaching culture. You know, in companies that embed a coaching culture win when it comes to employee engagement, retention, and business performance. And that coaching culture is helping somebody be the best they can be, realize their potential, and then use that energy and drive to be a great employee as a side effect. Part of that coaching process is having a PDP, a personal development process, which should really be done on a quarterly basis. Now, a lot of businesses either don't do this or don't really know where to start, especially if they haven't got somebody that's coaching qualified with on the staff board. Recognizing this problem, we developed a 3-page PDP process, which you can pinch. It's on our website over at Free Tools. I'll flash it up now. And this has got 3 parts essentially, but the first part's all about the person. And the wheel of life that we have at the top there is somebody's values. So actually, as a part of our coaching process, as a part of our check-in process, we can actually, with this very simple framework, help somebody realize what are your values, and then move into the final stage of the PDP, which is what are some actions we can take to be more aligned with those values, so that when our staff are checking in with us, not only are they developing professionally, they're developing personally as well. So I hope all of that's made sense to you, but essentially we've highlighted the problem that basically in society, we don't really know how to be happy. We're not really taught well how to live happy, fulfilling lives. I believe that the workplace can actually be a huge solution to that problem. And if they're not the solution to that problem, they're going to have to deal with the negatives of that, which 9 times out of 10 is going to be poor mental health. So if in the workplace we can put these 2 basic systems in place, and everything I've shown you can do for free, so if we can put some basic mindfulness and acceptance training around thoughts, feelings and emotions into place, and if we can provide a basic framework to help our employees connect to their values and take actions to be more aligned with them, not only are we putting the structure in place to coach and develop our employees to be great employees, we're also giving our employees the skills they need to be healthier and happier in life. The benefits of which are going to be huge. The employees are going to be more engaged, they're going to experience much higher levels of well-being, and they're going to feel very, very looked after by their company and be more loyal because of that. We're also going to offset the negative impacts on the individual and on the business of that preventable poor mental health raising its ugly head. The time and potentially money that you'd put into putting this into your workplace would be covered if it just stopped one of your members of staff going on long-term sick because of preventable mental health. If you'd like to find more resources on what I've talked about, you can download and read the Happiness Trap. You can also head over to the Happiness Trap website where there's an 8-week course. If you're more business-minded, you could head over to themindfulemployee.com and check out all the resources there. And again, read the book, highly recommend it. And you can head over to betterhappy.co.uk, click on Free Tools, and you can pinch our PDP process, which I've highlighted today. You can pinch that from the website as well. If you found this video useful today, please let me know by commenting below. Give me any questions and feel free to subscribe to the channel and share it with others that you think it might help. Thanks for listening.